Look, it started out of a need to survive. And the survival, not just my own survival, but the survival of the entire family. And when I say family, I'm not talking myself and my siblings. I'm talking myself, my siblings, my mother, her siblings, and my grandparents and everyone else that I was staying with growing up in Mpumalanga in a very small shack, smaller than my bedroom, and there were 16 of us. So only my grandmother and my grandfather and my grandmother were working at the time, and both of them working, informal jobs and not making much. So for me, the journey started out of trying to survive. I couldn't do anything else. I didn't have an option not to go out there and sell something and make a bit of profit and come back and assist at home, So I wouldn't say I always wanted to do this. I had to do it at one point, and it was after I started doing it out of survival that I was able to see what entrepreneurship, how entrepreneurship was able to enable me to transform the situation. Well, at the time, not in a big way, of course, but the end results, therefore, the fact that I was selling a chopped Vienna for 10 cents, which I bought the long one for 50 cents, the fact that I was able to make a profit of 30 cents per Vienna, then it means I now have 30 cents to contribute, So entrepreneurship at that time, or at that point when I started, it was an enabler. It enabled me to be able to contribute, even in the smallest, even if I was able to, even though the contribution was very small, but the fact that I was able to contribute, it means I was able to make a difference. So later on, and I'm coming back to the last part of your question about, what keeps me inspired, what kept me inspired. The fact that I knew that when you as an entrepreneur, you are able to contribute firstly to yourself, right? Firstly to yourself, because if I'm able to take care of myself in the right way, then it means I'm taking one man off the streets of the crime of the crime statistics, right? That on its own goes a long way. Secondly, the fact that I can contribute towards those around me, right? In this case, my family. It means I'm equally contributing positively towards their life and probably saving the nation potential criminals, right? But thirdly, the fact that in a bigger scheme of things, I'm able to also contribute towards the community at large, whether it's through the employees that I employ, whether it's through the service that I render as well, which in my case, the fact that there's a gap, as an entrepreneur, you identify a gap. It means someone is struggling in that gap. Someone who's the person within that gap, they're really struggling with whatever that you're about to provide. And yes, you'll make money at the end of the day. However, you've made an impact. There are products that after buying them, I feel like the owner of the product did me a favor. I feel like I owe them, despite the fact that I paid. Why? Because that product or that service is making a huge difference in my own life. So I think for me, that's what kept me inspired. And lastly, the fact that through entrepreneurship, I'm able to take on head-to-head poverty that existed within my family within my extended family, and poverty that also exists within some of the people that I currently employ. That for me, it goes a long way, and I think it's quite priceless, and I can't afford not to do this because the enemy of poverty is right behind most of us, and having given the strength and the ability to do something that can challenge it and eradicate it to some extent. I remain inspired because the fight is exciting, because I can definitely see results, and I wouldn't want to do anything else except for being an entrepreneur. The entrepreneur must be relentless. The entrepreneur must really have a very thick skin. You know, you need to also be a visionary. You know, it's not about what you can see now. You know, it's really not about what you can see now. The results are not going to come today, but because you've tapped into a reality that everyone else around you does not know or does not understand, it's important for you to know that you are living in the future. You are living in a world where the current realities, right? The current realities will not acknowledge where you are going, simply because it's only you who have sat down and had this plan in your mind, and even started having how you are going to implement it. But most importantly, you also know how it's supposed to be at the end of the day. So being a visionary for me also goes a long way. But the other thing is, you must also be compassionate. You need to know that there are situations, there's a social challenge that is facing, well, I'm talking about our country in this case. You need to know that there are social ills that are facing our country, and as a result, as an entrepreneur, you are required, as per my earlier comment on the first question. As an entrepreneur, you must equally know that you are needed to come and contribute. And I think the other thing is, you also need to be a leader in your own right, and carry yourself as one, and understand that as a leader, you're not going to be liked by everyone. As a leader, you're going to have to make tough decisions. As a leader, people are looking up to you. So I think an embodiment of leadership, being a visionary, being compassionate, but also you also need to be innovative in your own right. You need to look at whatever that you're doing now. When the circumstances changes, unfortunately, you can't sit back and give out excuses. As an entrepreneur, you need to find a way on how you can turn things around. Unfortunately, it starts and ends with you. 2 weeks ago, I had a situation within the company, and then the way the situation was difficult. At one point, I thought, how can I just leave this thing? And I realized, no. You are married to this. You can't divorce it. This is you. Unfortunately, no one's gonna come and do this for you. So as an entrepreneur, the understanding that it starts and ends with you, it's important. No matter how you feel, you might be feeling, I'm being abused, but at the end of the day, just know, when you are dying crying on that corner, when you are done doing all of that, when you are done dishing out excuses, you're gonna have to be the one to come and do and rescue the situation. So that understanding, for me as a leader, that ultimately you have to fix it. It's important. And lastly, on the same question, I think as an entrepreneur, you equally need to understand that you are here, you are given this important role to make a difference. And I think that is important, knowing that you are here to make a difference, then it means things cannot remain the same while you are there. Something is wrong. Things cannot remain the same while you are there. Whether it's, the situation in your family, and unfortunately in South Africa, it starts there because, that foundation, that family foundation, it's lacking in most families, and as a result, that's where most people have to start, so that ultimately, once they've laid that foundation, then they can have the confidence to go out there and now take bigger challenge that includes or involves the community at large. So I think for me, those are some of the attributes that, in my opinion, an entrepreneur needs to have. Oh, but also the entrepreneur needs to be able to, at times be willing to get their hands dirty. They need to go. They need to be willing to do the job themselves. And if you're not willing to do the job yourself, I can tell you now, you're not going to make it you're not going to survive for long, because ultimately that's how you are able to build your own systems, by doing the work yourself. And hence it's important for entrepreneurs who are still starting to really struggle and go through the mess and go through the stress. It's important because that's what informs the systems they're going to put in place, the procedures that they're going to put in place, and everything else that's going to govern how the business is going to be run ultimately. I used to supply schools with learning material, and before they would grant your company the order to supply learning material, you are called into an interview, right? And you are asked questions. When they call you to an interview, you take samples, like you take samples, you take different brands of pencils, rulers, all of that, and you demonstrate that these are the brands I'm going to supply you with. I did that for 2 years, where I would sit in front of a panel and boast about these brands, these are the brands. These are the brands. This is what, and at one point I realized that, what? No, it cannot be. I cannot be in a situation where I'm boasting so much about someone else's brand, and even though I feel I have it within me to create my own, and I then, started asking myself, even the brands that we are working on, they're not even, most of them are not even local. They don't have anything locally on them, and I'm thinking, perhaps I wouldn't mind if this was if this brand belonged to a fellow brother, in South Africa, I then said to myself, no, maybe perhaps it's time, I create my own, because I also looked at how far, how big can I be able to grow with someone else's product, and there are limitations, many limitations for that matter, when you are pursuing someone else's a product or someone else's goal, you see. So I then decided, what, I am going to start my own, and I wanted to be created by an African, and so that it can also be consumed by Africans, in their own diversity, today we were working on a design for our website slide, and we are having white kids using our Ndebele edition, it is that rainbow feel to what we stand for, to say in our diversity, we are able to find each other. We are able to, in our diversity, we are curious and we take the time to embrace one another. We crisscross, we do things. I mean, for example, in my case, I went to a wedding. I would attend weddings with an Indian outfit, and it is that. I'll send you a photo. You'll see. It is that mixture to say we are together. We this one might be embracing their tradition in this way, but guess what? I am going to bring it into my space. I am going to be, I'm going to use a developed pattern product as a white person, and ultimately so that I can equally be identified or identify myself as an African, So I think for me, that was the vision to say, I need to come up with something that we are going to embrace as Africans, but most importantly, do it in our own way and not rely on what is already there. So that was the vision. I hope I answered the question. Charity begins at home. And that which you do for those who don't know, or that which you do, develop those that are around you first, because once they have the capacity, together you'll be even more powerful, you'll be even more stronger. When you empower your own, what the message you're simply sending is that at the end of the day, you will not be reliant on a few individuals, but you'll be able to, as a collective, be able to build your own industries. And I think it starts with us consuming our own products, because then it means in the near future, we can be able to get to a point where we beef up capacity in terms of infrastructure, and ultimately we are able to build our own solid industries. It's not going to happen if we don't support each other, because at the end of the day, I was saddened by the fact that that factory in Eastern Cape, the factory that was open to the one that was manufacturing cell phones, it was auctioned the other day. It was the first factory in South Africa, that produced cell phones. The downfall of that factory, apart from any other operational challenges that they were probably facing, or management issues, I think if I didn't spend my 25,000 on this phone and bought their phone, and we did the same for everyone in my family, all my employees, I don't think that factory would have closed down, and my fellow brothers and sisters lost their jobs. So I think the importance, therefore, it really goes without saying, because when you support your own, you are simply, that's a direct contribution you can ever make by making sure that you support your own. And I think we've gotten to a point where, in actual fact, it must be mandatory to support our own, because we know for a fact that it is the likes of Levi who can create jobs. Therefore it goes without saying. That's the model. That's what, in actual fact, hence I'm saying it was supposed to be law, that in South Africa, only South African products are prioritized. That's it. I know there's Proudly South African and all of those, but it was supposed to be made practical to say, listen, we are going to support our own. But ultimately, also, you can't support your own. We can't only rely on supporting our own from a customer point of view and not look at it as well from a government point of view to say what type of support is being given to entrepreneurs, you know. So it's a topic for another day, I know. But yeah, I think it goes without saying, and it's not negotiable.